Hi, welcome to the Quakes Motel. My name's Conan. In today's video, we're going to go through a quick and easy tip on the S2400 on how to get that sidechain ducking, pumpy sound that we all love in hip hop and house. Now, obviously with the S2400, there are no internal effects at the moment. We don't have compression, we can't sidechain, so you have to work out workarounds. And when you have limitations on a machine, workarounds, thinking out of the box, that tends to be the way that you have to do things. For instance, in the late 80s, early 90s, the whole chopping up samples into tiny pieces was a workaround. We had limited sample time, so the only way that we could loop 2 or 3 bars or 4 bars of a track was to chop things up into tiny little pieces. So it wasn't really a creative boundary breaking thing, it was just literally a workaround because of limitations. So let's jump in. Right, so we're going to run through this really quickly. It's really simple. I've got a 1-bar disco loop. Nothing particularly groundbreaking. If I go into multi-mode loop slice, I'm going to chop the sample up into 8 separate pieces. And you'll see why. So if we look at the sample here, you can see I've chopped it up into 8 different pieces. But what I want to do is I want to put that into its own bank so that it's its own samples and it's not going to be in multi-mode, because I want to have complete control over the samples. So the way that you do that, I've got a QWERTY keyboard on my lap, by the way, which is why I'm not doing hands-on here. It's just going to be on this QWERTY. If I go into Control S, go here, I can save all 8 slices. I can choose a bank to assign them to, which I've assigned to bank B, and then you go save file. Now, I don't need to do that because I've already done it. So let's just come out. And now if we go on to bank B, you can see I've chopped it up into 8 pieces and I've saved it as individual samples. Now if I go into step program, you can see that I've written a really easy 1-bar loop. It's just on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like I said, it needs to be cut up into 8ths. Let's come out of there a second. And now if you just listen, I've got it in solo. Okay, and on bank C, I've got a couple of drum sounds. Just written a really simple house beat over the top. As I said, nothing groundbreaking, just really simple. So I'm still on bank B, which is where the disco sample is, and this is where the magic happens. It's really simple, and you've probably already guessed it. And once you realise it, it's like it's been in front of you the whole time. We don't have internal effects, we don't have compressors, we don't have sidechaining in the S2400, but what we do have is the ability to control the level. And when you're using that sidechain technique or ducking technique or whatever you want to call it, that pumping, bouncy technique, really all that's happening is you're reducing the level on 1, 2, 3, 4 so that the kick can come through and the sample ducks underneath, and that's how you get that bouncy feel. So yeah, it's as simple as dropping the levels on 1, 2, 3, 4 on your samples, and then suddenly we have this. Bounce up and down, bouncy, there we go. Now that's a bit extreme, so I'm just going to take that back up a little bit so it's less extreme, but I just wanted to show you the effect. See, when it's subtle, it sounds like you've got a sidechain compressor on it, basically. It makes no difference, no one's going to know the difference, and you've done it completely internally without any effects. So let's just drop the beat over top again. Okay, now another reason why we do the sidechaining effect is in the mix, what it does is it takes out, you obviously have a lot of frequencies all battling for 1, 2, 3, 4, especially in dance music. So you'll use the ducking technique so that the kick can take up all the low frequencies on 1, 2, 3, 4, or the snare on 2 and 4, and you're ducking the bass or the sample or the loop or whatever you're using out of the way of the kick drum. So you're also in effect dropping some of the low end out as well, so then the sample can come through, sounds bouncy, but it's not overtaking the kick drum. So another thing that we can do, because we've now got it on individual samples, is we can, on the 1, 2, 3, 4 samples, you can assign a high pass filter Really, really easy to do in the S2400. And if we just come out a second, now obviously, because it's already been recorded, etc., I have to have playback override on. So now I can So you can hear what I've done. I've basically, not only have I dropped the level, I've also dropped the bass out a little bit. And this is something that you should remember as well with filters. EQs are basically just filters. The very first EQs were very primitive filters. That's pretty much all they were. So when people say there isn't an EQ in the S2400, there is, because you've got filters. So if you think of it that way, you start applying it that way, then there are so many more options open to you, and you're not as limited as you think you are. Obviously, we've got these internal effects coming up, hopefully. That'll be amazing. Can't wait for that. But at the moment, we just have to work with what we've got. So, as I said, you can use the filters the same way that you would use an EQ. So apply the high pass to it. Now, what I want to do now is, because obviously I've got a lot going on now. I've got the levels dropped down. I've got the filters affecting the low end as well. What I really want to do is now bounce this to its own sample. So I've got that pattern bounced to a sample. That's really easy to do in the S2400. Come into Shift File. If you come down here, you'll have Bounce Pattern. Click on that. You can then bounce the pattern. You can assign it to a track. In this case, I assigned it to D1. And then basically you've got that pattern with all the effects that you've just added to it, the filters, the levels, etc., all bounced onto just one pad. Super, super easy. So now, if you listen. So now we have that on one pad, and it's all, now we can play about. It's that simple. And there you have it, a really easy workarounds to give you that sidechain, ducking, pumpy French disco house sound that we all love in the S2400 without any internal effects. And it's just thinking out the box. It's just not focusing on the negativity of limitations, but instead focusing on thinking out the box, pushing yourself, being creative. I mean, me personally, I think I'm my most creative when I'm limited, which is one of the reasons why I love the S2400. And it's one of the reasons why I love the MPC. You know, you have those limitations and it pushes you to be creative because you have to think of workarounds. And if you've got all the plugins in the world, you become lazy. It's just in my opinion. There's no right or wrong here, obviously. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more mixing, mastering and beat making tutorials and reviews. This is the Quakes Motel. My name's Conan. Till next time.